good evening. It's Thursday night, just past 9 p.m. Although it is still lovely and nice out. We have a more than one sustained week of sunshine in the UK. That means the world is definitely coming to the end. Um, I was going to try and think of some sort of clever, funny intro to this episode. I had it all lined up, but then Man United let me down, so I won't be doing that. But no, on a serious note, um, for those who haven't seen, uh, will know that the Colts owner, Jim Irsay, passed away in his sleep, I believe, last night, early hours of the morning. The first thing is obviously we love the Irsays, especially Jim and his children and his grandchildren. They've done so much for Indianapolis. I know the most thing. I think I think it was Kyle Brandt who summed it up the best. Is he's the closest thing to Tony Stark that the world has. You know, and I think for me, Nathan, is just speaking openly about it. Is he he to me felt like a billionaire that didn't want to be a billionaire, and that sounds mental. But while all the other owners are quite happy sitting in ivory offices and towers, he was the owner who would call out scumbags like Dan Snyder and expel him from the league. He's the owner who would give away millions upon millions to Indiana, the state of Indiana, the people of Indiana. I know he donated without, he didn't make this a one broadcast. I had to go and search this, but he donated like it was $3 million US to the Indiana University to protect and study and pioneer mental health studies. He would regularly do. I mean, most people probably know him for his giveaways um, on Twitter. Just giving fans and local businesses monies. He did when the Colts won a Super Bowl. He did a treasure hunt, a scavenger hunt, and the winner was real Super Bowl rings. He
Yep.
gives he gives fans of other teams tickets to Super Bowls, not just the Colts. This to me seemed like a guy who was open about the journey he's been on, open about the struggles he went through with his father and what his father went through with his father, and wanted to change that and fought against everything, all these demons and his addiction, fought through it all to become the Jim Irsay we all love, which was rock and roll. I mean, if he was a musician, he'd be a proper rock and roller. Would he be like an Ozzy Osbourne or something? Or
Oh yeah, you
so,
got to think he'd be a shredder, you know.
yeah, he would just he loved. I think for those who haven't seen as well, Pat McAfee, obviously very close to Jim Irsay, uh, was saying he just wanted to give back. He seemed like the person who just wanted to give back, and you don't get that every day from. I just like you said, it's weird that as nearly 30-year-old man, that some random billionaire in America, the death of him wouldn't usually get to me a bit. But this morning I was just like, oh man, it just sucked. I don't know how you felt.
Yeah, it was certainly somber, and I mean, you know, Jim Irsay's been one of the most kind of prevalent, prominent figures in my Colts fandom.
Mm-hmm.
He's always been so involved, always kind of so public and very clearly always wanted the best for the team. As much as that's been criticized and, used against him at times, he has always done what's best for, the Colts and the state. And I mean, there's kind of two quotes that have really stood out to me today as well. And that was McAfee saying, Irsay struck him as someone who just woke up every day and, wanted to make the world a better place.
Yeah,
Which I think is, as you say, it's almost amazing for a billionaire to be branded that,
yeah,
because they don't tend to be that
no,
way. Um, as we see, in everyday life, and in sport, too. Owners are not often branded as nice people. They're kind of, especially NFL ownership, it's very commonly referred to as, their little kind of game and, their little piece on the table sort of thing.
Yeah.
There was also Bruce Arians, reflecting on his time and his relationship with Jim, and kind of described him as, the most generous person he's ever met. Dungy today as well, saying he's one of the kindest, kind of most caring people he's ever met. And I mean, yeah, it's a huge loss, and I think, anybody who's watching the show or will watch it in the future, who's, watched our work on our previous kind of channel, when emotions are high after losses and stuff, we've said some things, and, you kind of question some things, but, it's kind of like a moment like this that makes you think. One of my kind of most insane Jim Irsay memories was the story that came out after the Luck retirement, where he offered him a check for 500 million to stay.
Yeah.
Like, McAfee spoke openly today, and in his statement, I would advise anybody to go and read it. When McAfee wanted to go, Jim spent a few minutes trying to rework his deal, trying to make his life better to make him stay. And it's just really cool that an owner's doing that, is involved at that level.
Yeah.
A huge loss, and ultimately made the start of a completely new era, which I'm sure we'll either talk about today, because I think we should pay Jim, the ultimate respects today, and kind of only talk about him and his time, or we'll talk about in future.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, bearing in mind, Andrew tries to retire. How many billionaires, especially billionaires, but how many companies do you know would say, okay, that's your choice. Here's the 28 million we owe you.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, you mentioned about Tony Dungy, and I'm actually going to expand on the story because, man, it's just something again that was very nearly actually brought me to tears, the way Tony Dungy was telling it about, Jim was asking him, oh, does your dad come to all the games? He's like, yeah, my dad comes to all the home games and he tries his best to get to the away games, but, he can't always make it. So he just said, oh, tell him to come with me. And he flew Tony Dungy's dad to every away game. And Tony Dungy said himself that year his dad passed away. So that was, but and I know, like, he won't be the only nice owner. There's obviously going to be other nice owners.
Of course, yeah.
It's just everything I've heard from everyone is he was the most real billionaire. He was the most open billionaire. He was open. He opened himself up to the world. Really, he didn't care what people said, because he thought, if my story of overcoming addiction can help someone, that's better for them. That's better for me.
Yeah.
I think it'd be easy for people to forget, just because he was the son of a billionaire, how, I don't want to speak ill of someone, but how horrible his father was.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Robert Irsay was not the nicest guy in the world. Anyone could go and search it up, and just, again, a story I've heard or looked at today was 16-year-old. He could have quite easily just stayed in his bedroom, didn't, cleaned the locker room, did the uniforms, cleaned jock straps, did all the ball boy jobs, and then after one massive row between Robert Irsay and these players, it was 16-year-old Jim Irsay who went on the bus and made peace and got the players back on side. You know, it's like I say, I was just gobsmacked because it was hard, right? Because I think all Colts fans could see that Jim Irsay was getting on, and you don't want to admit it, but you see it, and you're like, oh god, he's getting on. That's not the Jim Irsay we know and love. But it still just punches you in the gut, like, oh god, that was horrible.
Yeah, and I almost agree. Do you remember one of the last times we saw Jim in the locker room where he was like fist pumping and
Yeah,
dancing with
yeah,
the players? And I mean, Shane was almost holding him up, and
yeah,
then all of a sudden he kind of pushes Shane away, and he's dancing, and the boys are loving it and stuff. That was an immensely awesome video to see. I think we were talking about in the group about how it was just brought a smile to your face, and um, there was a kind of horrible impersonal camera shot of Jim on a cart towards the end of last season,
mm-hmm.
and he just didn't look well. As you say, he
Yeah,
didn't look like the guy we know is Jim Irsay, and just such a shame that shot made it to television.
yeah, and I get again, like there will be people. I've seen stuff already. You just block it, just mute it. But there's already people who are like, oh well, he did this and he did. It's like, mate, read the room. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean? I think, yeah, like I say, I just think he's great. I think he's left a great legacy in Indianapolis. He's the reason we support Indianapolis, right? He's the reason he appointed Tony Dungy, and
he drafted Peyton. That's why
exactly.
most people under 30 support the Colts right now.
He drafted Peyton. He had to make the decision to let Peyton go and draft Andrew.
Yeah,
Do you know, like, but I also want to speak out about, I don't know a lot about American culture, I must say, but from what I've heard, he's one of the first owners, or he's the owner who didn't care about um, a player's background. And the big story, well, the biggest example is Edrin James.
yeah, yeah.
Nobody wanted to draft him because he had gold teeth, affiliations, and just all the stuff that these young men get beaten with. What they actually have nothing to do with, but they get beaten with it because that's what we like to do in the world, is just beat people down. But he wasn't afraid to take a risk on guys and go and buy him a car and they enter the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And just like stuff like he bought Elton John's piano and he bought all these guitars just to take on tour and show people, and just like.
And I believe his music museum is free
Yeah,
too. It's a free
yeah.
attraction that people can go and see and stuff, which is immensely cool given the value of that stuff.
He could easily charge.
Yeah,
He could easily charge for it. I just think there's probably millions of examples as well. He knows how to make it. He doesn't know what goes into a sausage, but he knows how to make a great one. Uh, but yeah, I just, like I say, I think for me, and I think I've got to agree, Kyle Brandt summed it all the best, is he just was a real life Tony Stark.
yeah, yeah.
A young hippie, loved his rock and roll. The youngest GM ever in the NFL.
Yep, 24 years of age.
That was it, yeah. 37 when it would have become the owner, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
Second youngest owner ever, something like that.
yeah,
But I think what makes it clear, especially when you see Ryan Kelly's wife post a video online, just talking about the misfortune they had and the unfortunate events they had. Just Jim Irsay never put himself first.
No, and that is, even before today's sad news, that is always a consistent theme of past player interviews. When they speak about Jim, they always say about how well looked after they were, how proud they are to play there. The guy is going to leave a legacy in this sport and in this city. At least we can say we rooted for his team, right?
Yeah. Moving on now. I've got a few moments here throughout Jim Irsay's time here that I think are probably moments we're going to remember most. Like there was other ones, but it's like, are we really going to remember them? We joined the fan base maybe a little bit later than what other people remember.
Yeah.
And we're just going to see if we can drag up some old memories and talk about them and rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 of how good it is, how good it was.
Okay.
And we'll start with, which one should we start with? Let's go with this one, which is our biggest win since 2003. And I believe I chose the Jacksonville Jaguars on purpose because we don't like winning there. But I'm not going to lie, I can't remember much of this game, apart from I think was it Reggie or TY? Probably TY went off on one. But
it would probably be TY, yeah.
The Colts beating Jacksonville 37-3, which again, like I say, I believe is our biggest win since 2003. Is this? There was other ones before, but the Baltimore Colts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this is the most recent one, I'd say. So the Colts with a decent quarterback, it makes a change, right?
I mean, let's have a look at the box score if they even go back that far for that game, and let's compare it to a recent Colts box score. Let's have a look and see if I can find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got it. So let's have a look at.
I want to try and guess a couple of players.
Yeah. So, who was playing quarterback first?
Andrew.
Correct.
Yeah.
Who was our main rusher in terms of carries that game?
Oh God! In 2013.
I'll give you a clue. It's a controversial player.
A controversial. Oh God! I'm trying to pick. Not Trent Richardson.
It is Trent Richardson. That was the year I believe we traded a first rounder for him. He had 20 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. Oh wow, there's some real throwbacks in here as well. Who were the Colts' top 2 receivers in that game?
I'm gonna go Reggie.
Yep.
And would it have been TY or would it have been Dante?
You're right.
Yeah.
Reggie had 5 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. TY, a very young TY Hilton at that stage, had 4 receptions, 45 yards. Trick question for you. Which tight end went off this game? Let's see if you can remember back then.
Oh God, that's a throwback.
I'll give you a clue. He was drafted, I think it was this year. No, sorry, he was drafted the same year as Andrew from the same college. Later went on to play for the Saints.
Oh God, I always get these mixed up. Was it Kobe Fleener?
You are
Yeah.
correct, sir. Yeah, he had 5 receptions for 77 yards and a tutty. We haven't seen that from a Colts tight end in the last 2 years.
Um,
But yeah, Andrew had a nice looking game.
who was
I
the other
say
one?
that
Dwight Freeney? Not Dwight Freeney. He was
it would be Dwayne Allen.
Dwayne Allen. That's
Yeah, later
Dwight.
went on to the Patriots and won 3 rings. But yeah, mad game and just a stark contrast to like a current Indy Colts game as well, especially at tight end.
I think was I think it might have been Jacksonville this year. We actually last scored 39 points against them. Was it
Yeah,
39?
in that kind of throwaway game, yeah, at the end of
But
last season.
that wasn't a good football. 37, like
No.
37-3 was good football. That was just both teams crap.
Yeah.
And I guess Adam Vinatieri was the kicker.
Who was kicking for us? It was Vinatieri, 3 for 3 as usual, and 4 for 4 on extra points. He scored 13 points that game.
We've not had that for a long time either.
Punter was Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
Some really cool Colts on this team, man. Vontae Davis at cornerback with an intercept. We had 3 interceptions that day. Darius Butler,
Yeah.
interception. Eric Walden, pretty interesting Colt. Went on to the Cardinals, I believe. And Antoine Bethier also had a pretty good game in the tackle range too. Yeah.
Yeah, a nice memory, good memory. Like we say, some good old players in there. I think a solid 6 for me.
Yeah, I mean, anytime we beat Jacksonville, is a 6. And when we can put 37 on them, then yeah, I'm with you there. I'm going to agree.
And I've got to admit, this is probably still quite early into my NFL career. So
yeah,
I'm still like Andrew Luck, and that's about it.
So I kind of like, I think, really like started to like watch every game and stuff around 2012. Because I was enthralled by Andrew Luck selection, but then of course you had Robert Griffin III too, and like the league was just torn on them, weren't they? It's all people were talking about, and of course Andrew just becomes, the king that he is and will always be. But yeah, definitely agree. I think 6 is a good number.
Yeah. Okay, the next one. Do you remember when we had a running game? I do. JT.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to let you talk about this. My doll's just gone.
No problem, mate. Yes, this was a game where the Colts were headed up by Frank Reich still. He was our head coach. I believe we were away to Buffalo. And the the phrase or one of the famous phrases, run the damn ball, started to kind of come out of this season. Quentin Nelson famously was, caught wearing a hat with it and so on. And yeah, Jonathan Taylor just completely takes over the game. Frank Reich, fair play as well, was allowing him to do that, just constantly feeding the ball to JT. And JT just ran all over that Buffalo defense. And as you can see, ended the game on 5 touchdowns. And I'm going to give this memory a 10 because I had Jonathan Taylor in fantasy that year. And he scored nearly 60 points in that game week, which is kind of unheard of. So, yeah, this for me is an instant 10. As any fans of the show may know, I'm always a protector of O-line play, and we were awesome that game. We were just running it all over them. But yeah, very bright spark in the Frank Reich era of the Colts.
Yeah, it was just mind bending watching this. The Bills just decided not to defend Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a great tactic if more teams want to start using that rather than Lloyd in the box. Lloyd in the box is really overrated against the Colts. Don't do it. One more say, you can't give 5 touchdowns less than a 10.
It's got to be a 10. This game was legendary. I mean,
Yeah.
all my friends messaging me this is amazing. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Which is a text I never get as a Colts fan usually. So yeah, it's a 10. JT kind of really explodes this year. I believe he ends the season as like a 1,300-yard rusher this year. And really put himself in the league. So yeah, it's a 10 for me.
Was this Carson Wentz or was this Matt Ryan?
It would be Carson, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Matt was Matt Ryan was the year prior to Anthony Richardson where JT held out. So yeah, it'd be Carson. Yeah.
Yeah. If someone gets 5 touchdowns in a game, I can't give them less than a 10. That's just. Anyway, so on to the next one. And this one, right, if you want to remember good football and just like high quality football being played in a blue uniform, is the famous divisional round game between the Padawan and the Jedi, between Peyton and Andrew, Denver versus Indy in Denver. And Andrew, look, guys, do you know what, mate? This is my house now. This is mine. It's not yours anymore. Unfortunately, we got stiffed by the Chiefs, I believe, in the next round. It led nothing but. I was just watching extended highlights of this game before we come on air, and it was nice to remember a good quality. You execute everything good to an excellent standard. A football game. I feel like a lot, especially in the modern day game, you see a lot of blowouts. A lot of high quality versus bad quality teams. This, and I do encourage people to go back and watch it, is a high quality game between 2 high quality units. And I mean that by, I think Denver come out with 2 interceptions. One was an arm punt. And I think Colts got 1 interception. And I think Block and Manning combined for 600 yards total. It was just, it's what a playoff game should be.
Yes, yeah. For sure. I agree. I think this game we all knew was coming, and we all wanted it at the time too. Of course, you do. If you're a Colts fan, Peyton's your kind of your god, and Andrew was very close behind. Or at the time we were hoping he would become that, right? I mean, I remember this game. I remember being a huge mix of not only nervous, but of course, excited too. But it was bittersweet too, because you kind of fallen in love with Andrew, but then in my opinion, the GOAT comes back to town. It was a tricky feeling to go through.
It was weird, but I think this for me personally is a 9, mainly because everybody said Denver would win.
Yeah.
Everybody said Denver would win, and whenever you turn that over, you've got to take it. And just like I say, watching it, Reggie and Ty for the Colts, that Denver defense with, who was it?
It'd be Revis and Chris Harris Jr.
Yeah, just unreal.
But
I'll give that an 8. That was a good game for me to watch.
I'm gonna go with a 10 because it's it's very rare we would ever get to see Peyton and Andrew on the same team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going with a 10. Colt fan's dream.
The next one is, oh god, this was a fantastic watch, and that was the Colts winning
Oh my god,
45-44 in
Yeah.
Arrowhead, 38-10 down at half, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was the old, I can't remember who our running back was at the time, or the one who fumbled it, and Andrew Luck picked it up and took it over the line. Like this, I think this one's the 10 for me, because this is a key moment in my mind. This is like a big moment in my mind. When I think Colts and playoffs, this is what I think instantly I go to.
Yeah.
And it's just Andrew Luck again, isn't it? We could just do an Andrew Luck section, really. Just 10. Just give him a 10. But I think maybe there's a bit of recency bias as well, especially with what the Pacers are doing. They just seem to be written off by halftime and then somehow come back in every game. It doesn't right. It's like, is it South Park with the member berries? It's just like, remember when the Colts were good?
Yeah. No, this is a 10, unquestionable 10. Andrew kind of putting himself on the map here for me. The reputation of this generational prospect coming out, and he goes to Arrowhead and does that.
Yeah.
It was just insane, and it almost feels like this is a scoreline that we might have to do again if we ever make it to the wild card and we're playing Kansas City. It's fascinating, and let's hope Anthony can replicate that performance. But yeah, it's a 10 for me, unquestionable 10. Anything, I'm biased, me, mate. I'm biased to Andrew. Anything Andrew is going to be a 10.
Yeah. And the last moment, just before we end off with some chat and maybe looking at the new era for the Colts, shall we say? The new chapter. Era feels too much of a thingy word to say, but a new chapter for the Colts is probably the most important reason we all watch this. And, Jim Irsay has done it. He did win it. The famous Purple Rain Super Bowl, 2006.
Yeah.
If I remember right, there wasn't a Super Bowl in 2007. There just wasn't one. It didn't happen. You can go and check your calendars, but pretty sure it didn't happen. They call it off for some reason. No idea why. But yeah. So I did not know the Colts were Super Bowl winners when I first started supporting the Colts. They were just on the Madden game, the demo.
Yeah.
I had no idea what American football was. I always just took the typical horrendous English view of it. It was just rugby and pads. It's not. And Joseph Adai was my favourite player because he was unstoppable on the demo. So that showed how much I know. So then when I actually get into this series, do you know what? I need to watch the 2006 Super Bowl, because that's all I hear from Colts fans. 2006 Super Bowl, and I had no idea what that was.
Yeah.
And you watch it, it's in Miami, it's raining, and it's a scrappy game, and it's going back and forward. With Chicago, two great teams going at it, and then halftime. I know some people like the halftime show, but Prince comes out playing Purple Rain, and it's typhoon season. It was just, I'm like, this is what the American dream is.
Oh yeah. It's kind of
bigger than life
dream, isn't it? Yeah.
it was just like, and I'm watching this on my phone on YouTube. I think it was like a 4-hour show, and I'm like, this is it. This is the American dream. This is what people sign up for. I'm like, it's just everything's bigger than life. It's Hollywood. Um, like I say, it's superstars. It just had everything really, and most importantly, we won. Like I said, I don't know what happened in 07. I think there was a power outage or something, but at least we can say that Jim Irsay won the Colts a Super Bowl, and no one else in our division has one.
No, that's right. We are the only one. I think for me at this time, I was still in comprehensive school, kind of staying up late watching the Super Bowl only. Never knew didn't really know anything about what was going on. It's just like, oh, this is cool. I like this game. And my first kind of entry into the sport was Giants Pats Super Bowl, where Eli Manning won it, and they had the famous helmet catch, and I just thought this sport's really interesting. We obviously didn't have Sky Sports and stuff back then, so you're kind of trying to follow the winners and so on. And yeah, I'm not going to pretend I remember it. It was a long time ago. I probably watched the first quarter or two before my parents shouted at me and told me to go to sleep because I had school the next day. That's the kind of real life memory I have of it. Of course, we've all gone back and watched that game probably 20 times. When you're thinking of giving up on it, that game can bring you back. But I'm going to put this as a 20 or a 10, mate, because this is all Jim wanted, and to do it is probably, you've got to think that's something that brings him a lot of joy in probably the dark moments he's had since it.
Yeah, and a small percentage, the tiny percentage of people that actually make it to the NFL and have the privilege of playing, there's an even tinier percentage that actually go win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And all them guys are immortalized now, and they should be. God, do you want to pull up the team? Do you reckon you can get the team up?
Definitely. One second.
I could probably name two. That's Jeff Saturday and Peyton. No, I reckon a few.
Let's have a look. Here we go. Okay. So, can you name me our 3 wide receivers and our tight end at the time? So one of them was your favourite player.
One of them was a favourite player.
You said Joseph Adai.
Yeah.
Your favourite player, right? So he was actually one of our leading receivers that day. Who were the other two? Obviously, very famous Colts receivers.
Yeah, it's got to be Reggie and Marvin.
Yep, Reggie and Marv. And then the Colts' most famous tight end, apart from Tyler Warren, who we just drafted in March.
Dallas.
Yeah, that's right, man. The famous, big four, or big three, I should say, in the Colts offense.
Yeah.
Dominic Rhodes had a monster game, as anybody who's ever watched this will know. 21 carries, 113 yards, and a touchdown. Peyton was 25 for 38 for 240. 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
Yeah. Defense. I remember Bob Sanders.
Bob Sanders, yeah. How can we forget? Antoine Bethier again, chip winner with Indy. Mad that he was still there in 2013, still getting interceptions against the Jags. Hell of a career, hell of a Colt. Of course, how can we forget Robert Mathis coming off the edge?
Yeah.
Ryan Dean again. I mean, yeah, Vinatieri kicking, 3 for 4, kicks both extra points. Pretty stacked roster. I could say pretty stacked roster.
A legendary team. So that's just. I mean, there were just some like moments throughout. I've just picked 5 throughout recent history that we could look back on and look fondly on. What Irsay built from the scraps of doom. Really, wasn't it? It was a battle of hell from Baltimore because of the tough with the owner and the mayor, I believe. Indianapolis brought him in. It wasn't going great at the start. I think there's a book I had. I lost it, but it's about like the history of Indianapolis. I believe like RU basketball team was getting better attendance at one point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the house that Peyton built for a reason. That's when things changed. Manning comes to town, obviously has the I would say it's famous, but maybe not so much in a bad way anymore. It's now used as like almost an expectation for rookies. They'll come in, they'll have a Peyton year, and then it's whether they can, turn it around, sort of thing. But you're exactly right, man. The Colts were in no way relevant, at least in good ways, until number 18 shows up, and then everything changes. And I was actually reading an interview today. There was staff on the Colts team who were walking into Irsay's office around the draft and, beating the drum that he shouldn't draft Peyton and Peyton's going to be this big bust and stuff.
Yeah.
And he stuck to his guns and was like, no, this is who we're taking. And the rest is history. Greatest of all time, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Bill Polian hired in.
Yeah.
Colts fans will remember him fondly. I believe, did that spark, was the Peyton draft the one what sparked the famous expert argument with who the hell does Mel Kiper think he is?
Yes, because he was pushing for Ryan Leaf.
You have to take Ryan Leaf.
Yeah, saying Ryan Leaf was going to be like the next, prodigy of the sport. And Peyton quite literally becomes that. You have Peyton and Tom, arguably the best quarterback duo that we'll probably see, maybe in our lives. I don't know. For the good of the game, hopefully not. Obviously we got Josh Allen, Mahomes now. Got Jalen and Mahomes technically.
Riley Leonard.
Yeah, Riley Leonard. Jason Bean, of course, just waiting to get his name called. But yes, couldn't have put it any better.
Yeah. So before we end, should we look at what's coming up then for Indianapolis then? So more than likely, Carly Irsay Gordon will take, I would imagine, would take sole control. She's currently co-chair with her other sisters.
So I believe, not to interrupt you,
go ahead.
I believe that's been confirmed today.
Right, okay.
In various places. She is the next person, it's hers. And just to kind of put that on record.
I would imagine that it can seem pretty brash talking about it this soon, but with this much money and so many jobs and everything on the line, this is stuff that does get sorted out quite quickly. And realistically, in the nicest possible way, has probably been, I don't want to say lined up, that sounds horrible, but has probably been sorted for a long time, I would imagine.
Yeah, I was reading.
She's been on the sideline a lot, is my thinking.
Yeah, I was reading some takes on it today, and I think she's been kind of getting tutored by Jim since she was about
Yeah,
20 years of age on, the basics of business and
yeah,
how to kind of run the franchise and so on. And obviously becomes way more involved in the football side of things
yeah,
in the last few years, regularly pictured at practice, at pre-season games, at games, so to speak. So, yeah, the era of Carly begins in 2025. And I mean, I'm going to wait to say what I want to say, because obviously we could go 17-0 and win it all. But it sort of feels like if it doesn't go to plan this year, obviously Carly's going to have to build it from the bottom up again, new GM, new head coach. And what I didn't realise was Carly was a centerpiece in Shane's hiring. She was really involved in the head
yeah.
coaching interview cycles. I didn't know that.
I know. And it's great to have a lady owner.
Yes, agree.
It's a fresh look on the game.
Agree.
Um,
I totally agree.
it's a big chapter. It's a big new chapter in the era of Indianapolis. I think we've talked before. It, if this is something she wouldn't want to do, that would mean selling the team, which could possibly mean relocation. There's just a lot of unknown, which is quite scary for us because we would have to all of a sudden rebrand again, and it would just be tough. So I hope they're here to stay. Like I say, they've been a great family and great servants to Indianapolis. The last thing I'm going to point out before we do head out is I've heard that Jim Irsay kept all his backroom staff on from Baltimore. So
Yeah.
like, all the anyone who wanted to come down to Indianapolis was kept on as part of the staff have been kept on. So that just says it all, doesn't it? Unless you have anything else to add, mate, I think we'll just be good to end it there.
No, yeah, I think we've said all we can as
Yeah,
to people from the UK. And as much as probably we can say, just again, thoughts go out to USA family
yeah,
right now from two people from the UK and many more, I'm sure.
yeah. And just to end, like if you need any more reason as to what good Jim Irsay's done on this earth, two random blokes in the late 20s, early. Are you late 20s, Nathan?
I'm 32. Yeah.
Early 30s, late 20, early 30s, on a random Thursday night is talking about a billionaire owner. And I don't think I'd do it for many other owners. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and thanks, Jim Irsay, for always standing up to twats like Dan Snyder. We've been Southbound. We'll see you all next week. Oh, go Pacers, currently 1-0.
Yeah. Night